So, Toge, how's everything going? And thank you for being here as one of my guests. And I've been waiting for you. We've been working together. We've been trying to coordinate this for a long time, and we're finally made it. So, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and how's everything going? And so far that I know that you're a CISO and going to education purposes, but can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, sure. Well, I'll clarify. I'm not a current CISO, but let's clarify that. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Um, so what I've been doing so far, I'm involved in multiple things. I'm the director of our MS in Cybersecurity program at the Dominican University of California, based in San Rafael here. So it is a business-focused cybersecurity graduate program. So I direct the program, I designed the program. I'm the founding member of the program as a director. I also teach GRC courses, part of the program. It's a business-focused program, less than a year, 100% online. So that's one thing, right, that I do. That's basically takes time from my schedule, nighttime, maybe weekends. The other thing, on a full-time basis, I actually work for one of the state agencies as their chief cybersecurity compliance officer, which I really don't publicize for the obvious reasons. Other things I do, I'm very involved with the educational institutions like ISACA, ISC Square, PMI, and all the others. I am on the board of ISACA. I'm the president. I got elected recently as the president of ISACA Sacramento chapter. And other things I do, I also serve as an advisory board member for a couple of organizations. Optimize is one of those startups that I provide advice. On a global scale, the organization called Vigitrust, really known for their PCI, but they provide other services. So I'm on their global advisory board member as well. Anything else? On the community side, volunteer side, again, I am also the president of the FBI Sacramento Citizen Academy Alumni Association. It's a long one. So it's really a community outreach effort, basically between FBI and community, helping FBI
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
come together. And of course, I'm sure there are other things I forget, but very involved. My focus is really at this current stage in my professional career. It is really focusing around education, awareness, and training, all those things. I'm also accredited trainer for ISACA for almost all the certifications except couple. So my focus nowadays, again, helping all the chapters working, partnering with Silicon Valley, our chapter, obviously, now that we have more to do, providing education training, acting as a panelist, moderator to our audience. I also do participate in the conferences and events, the industry cyber related, in terms of presenting uh, as a keynote speaker, moderator, panelist. It's really what I love to do, the whole education awareness training aspect.
So, what, if you don't mind me asking, what got you interested about that? What was your interest of getting into all these organizations and just being in
So actually,
different
let me
places?
kind of go back a bit and tell you how this whole thing started, right? My journey. I think that's really more relevant. I have a computer science, computer engineering undergrad degree. I graduated in 1994. So it was like more than 30 years ago. And then even during the undergrad education, I was working part-time in the industry after the second year during summer and everything. One thing led to another. After I graduated, I came to States to start working for UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, as a business system analyst. I worked for UC Berkeley for a couple of years. And then this was around 95, 96 timeline. This was just right. The internet was booming, right? I was at the right
Okay, okay.
place, right time. So got a management role in IT in private sector. And I stayed with that company for a good 16, 17 years. So that's kind of tells you when you have that alignment, you're happy, you stay, right? When all my friends were, doing
Mhm.
the job, hopping from one job to another, again, remember the internet boom. So, and during this 16, 18 years, which was my first part of my professional career, right? If you look at the past 3 decades, the 30 years, I learned a lot. I started doing everything hands on. I covered, it was a smaller organization, and I've done everything, right? I was in charge of IT. So, all aspects of IT, from except maybe light coding, right? Networking, service management, implementation of ERP systems, anything you can think of. I pulled cables, network cables, Cat5, Cat6, all those things, project management.
Okay.
So, and then during that time, I also finished my MBA around 2000, early 2000s. Excuse me. And I was managing the whole organization, the IT. We had multiple states, a lot of different remote locations. And this was again early 2000s. We were doing all technology, frame relays, and I'm sure some of the audience might remember those. And then around the 2003-4 timeline, my parents had some issues, health issues. I'm from Turkey originally, so it almost got to a point where I
Okay. Okay.
almost resigned. And I told my CFO, CEO about this, and they were so surprised. But I came up with the idea to manage our headquarters, just like I was managing for our remote locations in different states. And they said, "Oh, can we do this?" Right? Remember, this is pre-COVID, right? The remote work wasn't the thing. So around 2000,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, around 2004 or 5, I went back and started managing our US IT operations from Turkey. I was coming back here once a month, once every 2 months for important meetings. And I've done that for 7, 8 years, managing the US IT operations. And during that time, because of the time difference, I wanted to do something useful with my time, and I found myself teaching as an adjunct at the local university. And the people around me, the faculty, they also basically encouraged me. They were very happy. Students were happy. I wasn't their traditional faculty, right? I was coming from the industry, giving them the industry experience. And my peers said, "Oh, you're so good at this. Why don't you take it to the next level?" And I asked, "What is the next level?" They said, "Well, why don't you do your PhD?" So then this whole idea came. Okay, well, this was around 2008, something like that, 2009. And I started thinking about uh, big data, information security, big data, information security. So I ended up choosing information security. And I completed my PhD in Turkey, focusing around information security, patient safety, and quality management systems. And eventually, around 2010, 11, that timeline, I had to be here in person. We were going through these major modernization efforts, IT, cloud, all those things, right? So we came back with my
Mhm.
family, finished those projects, and then uh, I also started teaching here, where I got my MBA at St. Mary's College around 2016. In the meantime, because I love the higher education so much, I transitioned to the UC environment, University of California, A&R, Agriculture and Natural Resources. I started managing their IT, except the application team. I also became their first CISO, Information Security Officer, Chief Information Security Officer. So I stayed with them for 3, 4 years. But then I realized, I wanted to get away from IT because IT was becoming this commodity aspect, the cloud, right? You were outsourcing everything because organizations, right, they're not in the business of, doing IT. So I wanted to focus on the information security. And I got a job at UC, University of California, Merced, and became their CISO. Done that for 3 years, 3 plus. And then another opportunity came because I had my PhD information security in healthcare around patient safety. I always wanted to work in a real hospital environment. So I also took the opportunity to start working for Sutter Health for a good 2 to 3 years, managing their flagship hospitals in the Bay Area. But during all this time, because of the education I've been teaching at St. Mary's, data analytic courses, part of their MSBA, professional MBA programs, I always
Mhm.
wanted to launch a cybersecurity focused, business focused graduate program. And that opportunity came with
Okay.
Dominican University. And I was able to do that last year. We launched our cohort, first cohort of the program last year. And again, I became the director, and this is really an online thing for me that I love. That's my passion. Once I launched that program, I wanted to focus on the full-time aspect and got a job at the state as one of the state agencies as their chief cybersecurity compliance officer. So overall, I mean, I know it's kind of a long thing, but that's the whole thing. One thing I forgot to mention during this journey, I realized the importance of certification. I know we're going to talk about it. And I started basically focusing around the ISACA, ISACA, and all other institutions, their certifications. Now I have, I think, around 52 certifications, so which we're going to discuss. So it's
That's
kind
a
of a
lot.
big picture, doing multiple things. There are always lessons learned. We'll definitely talk, but it's really at the end of the day for me, the drive for ongoing learning, and also the people you meet, like your circle, right, that you can learn from and give back. So that's at a very high level, the story. Yeah. And
Most of the
again,
industries and
I did cover, higher education, healthcare, industry, private sector, government, and it's really a good learning experience. And I really suggest that if you have the opportunity to experience different industries, right, it comes very handy, gives you that big picture perspective. There are always overlaps, and what you learn in one industry, let's say in one area domain, always helps you in another industry, in another domain. Of course, there might be differences, laws, regulations, whatever specific industry focus. But overall, I mean, it's a preference, right? People say, oh, I'm going to stay in this specific industry and move forward and just move up, whatever. And some people, well, let me try different things. I like to experience, I like to get that background and experience and learn different industries. So that's kind of me. Again, ongoing learning is really a part of drives me. Oh, definitely.
just different areas, different aspects. You
Well,
think that was a benefit?
yeah, I think that also depends on your short-term and long-term goals, and that's something I really decided when I was at UC, University of California, because I love the higher education, but I was asking myself, right, after spending almost 18 years in private sector, and I was at a point, okay, what do I want to do with the rest of my professional career, right? Those are hard decisions.
Mhm.
You need to kind of decide what drives you. You need to do what those things that you like to do that makes you happy. And I really love the educational awareness training aspects of what I've been doing, but I also wanted to kind of in the long run, right, to be able to give back to all the communities, to all the audiences. So that means that I had to get a good understanding of different industries and the different pain points that every industry is going through. So that's one of the reasons why I got the job at Sutter Health, and then later launched the program at Dominican University of California, which is a business-focused online program, a year long. And then after the program is launched, then I said, okay, let me now focus my efforts on the government state. And since last year, I've been, again, working as the chief cybersecurity compliance officer for one of the state agencies. So
Oh,
it
okay,
all
okay,
depends
okay.
on your short-term, long-term goals. Everybody is different, obviously, which we're going to mention.
Yes, I do have a curiosity on this. So in this perspective, when you were doing all these, this whole journey was going through, did you, what was your short-term goal? It was more to try to get the fundamentals of everything, or was it just pretty much, let
Yeah.
me learn from everybody else?
So I think the short-term goal, if you look at it, right, essentially, when I present it, I always mention about these factors that influence these type of decisions. Number one, it's all about the health, right? So your
Mhm.
health related issues, are you healthy, or how healthy you are? Number two, these
Mhm.
are factors that influence these type of decisions. But where you are in your professional journey, are you a 20-year-old who's graduating or planning, right, maybe
Mhm.
25, 30, or someone in their mid career, someone think about retirement? So where you are in this professional journey, the roadmap, right, is important. That's the second factor. A third one is you access the resources, right? Whether it's the financial resources, whether it's the time commitment, all those things. And then the fourth
Mhm.
one, obviously, we have obviously people around us, our spouses, our partners, our friends, family, right? That work-life balance, and so these four things really kind of drove
Yes.
me. Now, so for me, because I was here, let's see, 1995, my focus, and again, coming from a tech engineering background, I was always looking at things from a technical perspective. I would say, okay, well, we can always, find the solution about using this tool, that technology, and this and that. But of course, as you move forward, as you mature, as you learn, especially after I got my MBA, your focus transitions, shifts, right? It's not about the technology, it's not about the tools. It's really about how you make a difference. Is how you
Mm,
solve business problems, business pains, business needs, right? So then I shifted my focus to business. But getting the fundamentals is always important. You need to have a good understanding of the technology, what technology can do for you, for your organization, for the industry you're working, the capabilities, the limitations, all those things. That said,
mm.
people are different, as I was going to mention, right? Everybody's has a different personality. Some people are more technical, maybe some are more non-technical on the business side. So I'm just generalizing. Whether you're a technical person or a non-technical person, what really matters is at the end of the day, it's all about business. It's all about how we create value for our audience, but you need to have an understanding of the technology. Now we're going through AI today. You need to understand what AI is, does, how it creates value if you're not a technical person.
Mm.
So again, short answer, I think we need to have maybe not at a subject matter SME level expertise, but we need to have
Yes.
a good understanding in today's technological landscape. Even if it is the non-technical focus domains, whatever we do, we need to have a good understanding of the technology, what it can do for business, and how we can use it. And of course, if it is our preference to focus on technology track, and whether you want to stay at the expert level, that's the decision. And there's no right or wrong answer, right? It's a preference. But especially if you're thinking about management above the non-technical track or the non-technical track, what is really critical, especially depending, again, those four factors I mentioned, it is important to have the right level of experience, right level of education and all that, and a business experience specific, the business education, looking at the big picture, understanding the impacts of IT, technology, cyber, governance, risk, all those things from a business perspective, because we're not generally in the business of IT unless that's what you do. We are in the business of whatever the services and products and how we create value. So you need to have that big picture understanding, whether it's the technical focus you want or the non-technical, and whether you want to stay at the analyst level or the low level staff level or management level. Those are all decisions, preferences. It's just a matter of understanding, intentionally going forward with those decisions and doing what is needed. So if you're focusing on management, for example, I'd strongly recommend our program at the Dominican University of
Yeah.
California.
How realistic is it to get hired in
Without
cybersecurity
a
role
college
without a
degree. Well,
college
actually,
degree?
that's a very good question. That's one of the presentation topics that I've been doing, like transitioning to cyber, right? As I was mentioning, so one is definitely the formal, let's say, education. Second is like going through undergrad, grad. Second might be the certification route. The third one might be if you're working in a specific industry, let's say in healthcare, like HIPAA, right? Those
Mhm.
laws regulations. So that might be a natural transition. A fourth one might be, for example, if you are working, let's say, in the technical domain as an IT, maybe some network skills and whatever. So having that IT background experience at a low level might also help you transition to cybersecurity. So, and of course, if
Mm.
if you don't have the degree, if you don't have any certification, so we're basically saying everybody's situation is different. You have to understand that. So the question is, uh, how realistic is it to get hired right after, let's say, a high school education, right? That's one thing.
Mhm. Yes.
Or maybe after high school, you've been in different works and kind of got some experience hands-on, and you're trying to still transition. So it all depends, obviously, but we cannot really, we have to emphasize the importance of ongoing learning. So without experience, we have this, loop, right? We want to
Yes.
get the experience, we want to get that job, but they say, oh, you don't have the experience. Well, how am I going to get the experience if I don't get the job? So unfortunately, that's the kind of a
That's
loop.
always a common thing, man.
That's
Always.
always a big important thing. So what I really suggest for Richard is find out all the opportunities. I think one way to start is you cannot do this alone. You have to have your network, right? You have to have the right people. And actually, that's how we met
Mm,
with Efron, right, in one of the trainings. So one suggestion definitely is I recommend being part of these nonprofit institutions like ISACA, for example. Okay, and then
yes.
ISACA has a huge member audience, and we get together once a month. There are different events, conferences, and those type of things. So it allows you different to have different opportunities, meet different people from different organizations. So that's basically, you have to create opportunities. You cannot just wait. Okay, I'm just going to wait here. Let the opportunities come to me. You have to take an action. So that's one
Yes.
thing. So I suggest becoming an ISACA member, depending on where you are. There are a lot of chapters. It can be ISACA, it can be ISC Square, PMI. I mean, if you're talking about cybersecurity, ISSA. So do that. Of course, my information is available. I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to provide it, we can copy my information on on the chat. Please connect with me.
Yes.
That's always an important in today's environment. LinkedIn networking, because once you connect with the right people, then you'll see what they're following. Then you learn from them, right? Because those people, like myself, I'm always learning from LinkedIn, for example. The people I follow, events, conferences, and then us connected, then you can learn. There are a lot of opportunities, learning opportunities, and most of them are free, by the way, on the internet, events, conferences. It does take some time, effort. It's not going to happen overnight, but you need to start somewhere. And I think at this point, without a college degree, so I definitely recommend a college degree, obviously. But again, those four things I mentioned, right? Your health, your resources, your significant others, and then where you are. So you have to take those into consideration. And the way to do that is get involved with a chapter, ISACA, IS, whatever, and then learn, go through the certification. You need to build your resume. On a blank resume, nobody's going to hire, right? And you want to get that experience. So you need to start somewhere. That is important. Having the right people in your network is important. So hopefully that helps.
Yes, that's true. The volunteering perspective is very good. That's how I started my IT
Actually,
career.
one thing I forgot to mention: once you become a part of this professional networks, there are a lot of programs out there. For example, I know I'm also part of the California Governor's Cybersecurity Task Force, a subcommittee focusing around workforce issues. There's a huge skill issue shortage, right? And there are committees, work groups around these issues. So once you become
Mhm.
a part of these groups, then you'll find out about these opportunities, whether it's the
Mm.
internships, whether it's the apprenticeship programs. Make sure you have the right people, and then learn about these opportunities. It's all online, resources available, obviously online, and then it's just gonna take some time, step by step.
No, no worries. But yeah, that's pretty much how I started too. My career path in IT. I didn't have no certifications. I didn't have no education. So pretty much I volunteered. I volunteered for an organization for it's a small, still up there. It's called a Computer for Kids. So it was a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit organization that supports for the kids that has
Oh,
they're not
I
able
can
to.
I cannot emphasize the importance of volunteering. Maybe now you have time. See, if you have time,
Yes.
right, you're looking for jobs, whatever, this might be the right time for you to give back or volunteer. And by volunteering, let's say if you become a member of an ISACA and then chapter, and then you can volunteer, you can become a chair, whatever. And through that effort, right? Again, it's step by step. You just have to don't expect things to change overnight. I mean, look, Efren, I mean, you mentioned all these things, and look where you are now. We're having this podcast, and you're kind of growing your
Yeah.
audience. Things will take time. There's no silver bullet.
Everything was just based on volunteering. Honestly, I didn't really have the opportunity, so pretty much I just had to look for the opportunity. I had to look for the
Yeah,
opportunity, and after that, they gave it to me. They gave me that small little opportunity, and from there, I just started learning more and more and more. And
you have to have the right people around you that you
so,
can learn, right setting, right context,
yeah,
and don't waste any of the opportunities that come to your way.
yeah, like Richard said, like I personally don't have a degree right now. I don't have any certifications, but during all that process, it makes it pretty much. But now it is a little harder for cybersecurity because it is a little bit tougher. They do require certs or have a good resources. You
Yeah,
must have a
yeah.
lot of good resources, but still, in the end, you do have to have at least one certification, and that's what I'm currently doing.
I mean, employers, yeah, it's not easy. They want to see experience. They want to see knowledge, know-how, right? Certification one way, education another. So it's not easy to kind of transition, but you have to start. You have to kind of connect with those you can learn from, and then try harder, so that when there's an opportunity that comes your way, that you're ready. The opportunity might also be there, but you're not going to take care of it, take advantage of it.
So I know you mentioned about that, about the volunteering base and the ISACA. What certifications do you think is pretty good on ISACA and ISC Square? Or what type of what
Sure.
volunteer positions do you guys have as
Well,
well?
I mean, let's talk about that. Certification is a reality, right, in today's environment. And I look at certifications from an angle, from a perspective of two buckets, maybe mainly. One is basically these global accepted non-vendor, also vendor certifications. Vendors have their tools and right solutions, so you spend some time, understand how the tool works, and you are certified for that specific vendor, for that specific tool. So it is important, again, those four things I mentioned. If you're really young and you have to kind of focus on the foundations and fundamentals, objective, I'm going to work for, let's say, IBM, or I'm going to work for Amazon, whatever, right? They have a whole list of tools and technologies. Then it makes sense for you to, what are my goals, short-term goals, mid-term, right, long-term goals? That's important. It's like the journey, right? The roadmap. If you don't know where you're going, everywhere will take you to where you want to go. So you need to do some thinking. Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10, 20, whatever? So unless you have that plan, you're just going to go in different directions, and and you're going to end up where you end up. So I strongly recommend that. As far as the technical certifications, so now let's focus on I don't really have any vendor certifications because, again, that's not my focus. I'm more on the accepted ISACA, ISC Square, those type of PMI certifications. And I think I have certifications from every domain: privacy, risk, governance, compliance, all those things from different institutions: ISACA, ISC Square, PMI, IAB, IBA, business analyst. Anyway, so focusing on that, let's put it that way. Do you have, in the short run, in the long run, mid run, long run, right? Do you have a technical focus that you want to be able to do stuff because maybe you like technology, you want to do stuff at the technical level. You want to do as little as possible, right? That understanding the fundamentals, and then transition to the non-technical, to the business side of things, right? So that's a very important decision that you have to you're at that juncture. So once you make that decision, one of the limited resources you have is time. Where you are in your professional journey. Are you 20 years old? Are you 30 years old? Are you 40, 50, whatever? That's important. You have more, so you can risk certain things, and you can maybe start fundamental courses, fundamental certifications, whether it's the technical, vendor related, or non-technical. But it really does help you if you have a plan. Without a plan, and that plan is, where do I want to be in the next 5 years? Which industry do I want to work for? Which organization, if you have that preference? I mean, back in the day, I always wanted to work for IBM, for example. It didn't happen, but I ended up using their products for 16, 18 years, the Big Blue.
Yeah.
So those are important decisions, right? Being proactive. It's like about strategy, just like in business. So you're kind of drafting your own personal strategy. I mean, it's not going to happen maybe in a year overnight, but because you have it there, and if you're persistent, consistent, right, you'll get there. It's really that missing piece for many people, and they end up, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, without having a clear plan. Their objective set, strategy for short, long term. They try different things, and they go different directions, and that's really not a good thing for you, basically. So hope that helps. But I suggest, me personally, focusing on the technical, non-technical stuff, even though I had the undergrad as a technical education engineering. I think the business side always makes more sense, because it's all about business at the end of the day. But it does help to have a good technology understanding regardless. And there's nothing wrong, right? If you want to stay on the technology track, move up there, become the management of the technical team, director of the technical team, there's nothing wrong with that. It's all about preferences. But you need to make those decisions right now. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? The director of the technical team, whatever, right? Cyber, whatever, or the director of maybe the cyber as a CISO on more on the business. Of course, you can be a CISO, operational CISO, or business CISO. There are different focuses too. But essentially, do you want to be very technical or non-technical with a good technology understanding?
The non-technical one. So can you explain to me a little bit of that? Like, I know that CISO would be more technical, and the other one would be more
Well,
strategy, right?
actually, it depends, right? There's no such thing. Oh, CISO has to be technical. It's really
Mm,
not true. It all depends. It depends on the organization. It depends on the industry. It depends on how mature the organization is. So you can be a technical focused CISO, taking care of addressing the operations, or you can be more on the business side. I mean, I don't want to uh, say the wrong thing, but I think you're more of a director,
yes.
right? Director of operations. I think should always have the business mindset, should have always that business focus, regardless of their background. So if
Mm,
you have to choose, the business side should be, more important than the technical side. Of course, they have to understand the technical components. So
mhm.
from that perspective, again, especially for if you're aiming for long term, right? To be at the director level, at the C level, CISO level, whether it's information security, governance, risk, compliance, like an officer, right? CXO. A formal education, a graduate education, always looks better, and you can always have these certifications, whether it's the risk certification, it's the audit, governance, right? Information security, privacy. There are all those certifications, and you can add them. And I highly recommend a graduate degree that you can finish in less than a year online, so that it's available for you. And then look for opportunities, connect with the right group, become a part of the group like ISACA, and have these engaging conversations. You never know who might be looking for an intern, a new junior analyst to start maybe on the business. I'll give you an example. One of our students attending the program, she has no technical background, but she has the right circle. She had us, our advisory board. After taking 4 courses, she was a music major, right, arts, and had
Okay,
zero
okay.
technical background, and that's the program that we have. She found a job as a cybersecurity coordinator for a global company, but she had the right connections.
Awesome.
She understood the business implications, and of course, her degree helped, and she's pursuing the certifications as well. I guess the point here is it's not only one thing, right, that you will be doing to get that job. You have to do multiple things all at the same time,
Mhm.
as much as possible, based on your limitations, resource issues, as I mentioned, where you are in the roadmap journey. So more than happy to again provide guidance on a one-on-one. Connect with me, and this is one of the things I do anyway: coaching, mentoring. As I mentioned, after the University of California experience, leaving private sector, I decided that's what I'm going to do. That's more important for me. It's not the financial compensation, all those things. It's really making a difference, giving back to the community around awareness, education, training. And I think that's
Mhm.
it does show up with my actions, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I got recently elected as the ISACA Sacramento chapter.
So that's great. That's great. And like you mentioned, I met you in classes before. I met you at a what was it, an
Which class
auditing
was it?
class?
Audit and CISA.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sister class. I met you at the sister class, and like I said, like you mentioned, it's like you just gotta know your circle. Your circle. You gotta meet
You
people.
know,
You gotta network with
I mean,
people.
you're a good example to our audience. I mean, so you attended that. You were ISACA member, chapter member, whatever. You attended the training, and through that
Yes.
training, you met people. We met together, and now look where we are. Right, we're talking, and that's the point
Yes.
I'm trying to make you, because you never know the future, the
Yes.
potential. That's why you have to be open to any opportunity. And I think that the couple of things I mentioned: ongoing learning, network connections, getting involved with these professional associations like ISACA. These are the
Mhm.
baseline, the fundamentals that you have to do. And after that, and of course, there might be a bit of a luck, this and that, but you have to keep trying. Things are not going to
Yes.
happen if you just wait and do nothing.
Yes. Very true. You have to stand out. You have to go out there and do something, do some work. Because if not, man, there's opportunities, but they're not going to be given to you. And that's good. That's good. I also see you have a lot of books in the background and some musician stuff, some equipment out there.
Yeah, I
Can you
mean,
tell me a little bit more
of
about
course,
that?
it's not always work, right? You have to, again, that's the one thing I mentioned, that work-life balance, and because you cannot always work, right? You need to find
Hmm.
a hobby or thing, whatever that is, that'll release the stress or that work-life balance. I mean, it is great that if you do what you love, and today that's what I'm doing. It's all about everything I do is around education, awareness, training, using my
Hmm.
background, my 30 years of experience in business, IT, cyber governance, and of course, these type of things. They definitely help. Yeah, I started this whole music thing not professionally, very amateur. I love sounds, playing synths and keyboards since ever since I was like in high school. Of course, when you're young, there's this problem of you're young, you have the time, you don't have the money, so you're young and you're
Yes.
healthy, but you don't have the money, right? Resources, and in time
Yes.
that changes. So you're not young anymore. You have the money, and you're not healthy to a certain degree. It's all about the balance. So that's why
Yes.
make sure you have that plan because it just moves forward so quickly. Um, and I saw this thing on LinkedIn where there was this someone the cartoon saying they draw this line right 0 to let's say 90 years average human life. They said for the
Mhm.
first 6 7 years childhood right it's the best part of your life you enjoy it because you're a kid, and then after 7 8 years old you kind of start going to school and you school middle school high school college all that, and you start working till let's say 60 59. So the whole big part of your life you're going to be busy not doing the stuff that you liked, and then after 60 you retire. So make sure you have something in your big part of the life that you're going through that you like to do. So
Mm. That's good to have a balance of everything because you can't depend too much on work. I know people have a career path and they're so super focused on it, but they have to have that little freedom too. You just can't work all the time or study all the
yeah,
time.
definitely.
And I do see some books in the back. Do you have any recommendations on books? Anything that you listen to or anything that you read?
I don't really have a book. I say, oh, this is the book I recommend. I usually like to read a lot of books, ebooks, watch videos. Anything about a specific topic. When you go events,
Mhm.
conferences, because there's no end to that, and that's also again
Yes.
part of this issue of you have a limited time. You only have 24 hours, so you need to kind of if you have that plan that I mentioned, right? Then anything relevant you can read. You can say, okay, I'm gonna take this ebook, PDF, whatever, or the book someone suggests, and then you can read it. But if you don't have that plan, then what are you gonna do? Are you gonna there are lots of thousands or hundreds of books, right? People recommend, and you cannot go all through that. But for my
Mhm.
background, I love books, and I actually have a whole library back home in Turkey. Here, it's just, but it's really the PDFs and ebooks and what you do on online. Obviously, I spend quite some time during night after going to bed, going through different articles and reviewing the week and different events, conferences, just to kind of stay up to date. Okay, so
So
it really
definitely.
does matter. Well, one thing I recommend at a high level, and of course, if you go to Amazon or you can always see the reviews, right? The 4 5 stars.
Yes.
I would strongly recommend in your bookshelf that you get one business book, like that covers the mini MBA, right? And there are a lot of books out there that kind of goes through the whole thing. You need to understand financials, you need to understand accounting, people, ethics, something the MBA courses cover. You have to have a second book about project management, right? That's important. In today's environment, everything we do, right? It's all about projects, efforts in the organization. Of course, we have
Mhm.
things we do at the operational level. We run the business, IT, whatever, but we move forward through projects. So make sure to have a good book about project management so that you have an understanding. A third one is about change management Everything we do, similar to project management in an organization, it's a change effort. So you need to understand the different change models. And one model I like is ADKAR, ADKAR. So it's basically being aware, having the desire, K, having the knowledge, right? A, ability, and then reinforcement. So again, there are different other change management models. So get a business book around change management, because everything we do in organizations
Okay.
that's similar to project is change management. Another book, again, this might be maybe MBA related, is get something around soft skills, right? Communication, how do you deal with conflicts, negotiation, those type of things. So, and of course, technology is always there. And what we're going through, of course, we're going to discuss maybe, and we have a lot of time, is around AI. So get a book, again, whether you have a technical background, non-technical, get a book about AI so that you understand the basics of AI, because that's going forward is going to be very, very critical, very important. So you have to be able to talk, understand the jargon. When we talk LLM, what is an LLM, right? You need to know what that is at a very base level. You need to know the foundations. Um, of course, technology, another core element, something that covers the current technology. So I'm going to separate AIs because its implications separate, but have something around technology that, from a business perspective, disruption, innovation, digitalization, digital transform, all those things, right? So these are all important things. And then, of course, if you have in specific areas focus, maybe you are in audit, maybe you are in, I don't know, in risk, maybe you're doing governance, maybe you're in legal. Of course, at the juncture of those audit and IT, cyber, privacy, governance, AI, you want to get that specific domain that might be your focus, or that's what you might be doing, right? You might be a lawyer, for example, and bring all
Mhm.
these things on the business, IT, cyber, governance, risk, compliance, privacy side together to that specific domain, specific focus. And there are a lot of books out there bringing these common business IT related concepts to a specific domain. It might be audit, it might be project manager, you might be a project manager. Think about that. If you're a project manager, all the things I mentioned, business, IT, cyber, governance, data, right, risk, privacy, how is that all that relate to what you do as a project manager, project management concept? And there are resources out there. And that's I think the fifth
Mm.
bucket of the type of books you might want to have.
Those are good, really good suggestions. I know I've always listened to a lot of business and management and soft skills. I never, and of course technical. I've researched a lot of the technical stuff, but that's good.
Well,
That's some really good topics about the
one
project
thing,
management, the
another
AI.
another thing before we switch to AI, obviously everybody's situation is different. Some of us work from
Uh-huh.
home, hybrid, or we commute. You want to use that time if you're commuting, podcasts, right? Things that you can listen. There are a lot of useful podcasts out there. You can subscribe. Find the right one based on your interest level, based on whether you're
Mhm.
technical. Maybe you want to kind of get more business experience, business acumen, right? Jargon, technical jargon, business jargon. Maybe you are at that level. You want to kind of focus on your communication skills to the leadership, right? There are all these things, and there are channels out there focus on these things. So depending on, again, your objectives, your roadmap, you have to have that
Mhm.
roadmap. Unless you have that roadmap, and once you have that roadmap, here's the other way to look at it. You're here today. We call this the gap analysis, right? The current
Yeah.
state, current as is state. This is where you are, and you want to be here, and everything in between, right? The things that you should be doing to get in the next 5 years. I want to be here. Let's
Mhm.
say getting a management job, working for this industry. So to do that, you have in between every other every other thing, right? Maybe you get certification that specific healthcare. Maybe you belong to ISACA. Maybe you subscribe to a healthcare journal, whatever, right? There are all these things
Mhm.
that you should be doing. By doing all these things, right? You have a plan, you move forward, and you get there eventually. Okay, and podcast might be just one of those things that you might want to do, align with your plan. But what is important is that you have a plan first. Without the plan, you're going to go different directions.
Yes, very true, very true. I do have a plan, but we're still waiting. I do have a plan for this podcast and everything else, but yeah, but mine is more of like pretty much. I won't get too much into details, but more like towards your area, more into the business side, the management side. That's my more of my perspective. So pretty much, I use this platform to learn from everybody.
Part of the plan, sorry to interrupt, part of the plan,
Yes.
find someone that you can learn from, like a mentee, right? Mentor. So that's very important. If you can find that one person or multiple who'll help you, who's willing to help you, so that, right, you're not wasting your time, who can expedite that process, right? So that
Yes.
giving you guidance, so that moving you in the right direction. That's a win.
Yes.
So
And luckily, like right now, you mentioned that. I believe I have a huge belief of like even going to the ISACAs and ISC squares events. You'll find mentors there. You'll find people that you can connect with and network with. And like I
oh,
mentioned, we met there. Oh, so what was
I'll
that?
tell you.
You gonna say something?
Of course, when you kind of get into those circles, right, the professional institutions like ISACA, ISC Square, PMI, ISS, whichever,
Mhm.
there are different members, right? There are people who have different objectives, but there are people there because, again, just like myself, right, who have done it, who've been there, and they want to give back to the community. They don't want to find the next big job or they accomplish. They want to make a difference. And those are the
Yes.
people you really want to find and kind of associate yourself. Of course, learn from others, network, because everybody
Mhm.
has an opportunity. Maybe there's a opening in their team. It might be a junior, or they might know something about another organization looking for a position. Again, it's just all part of being there. By being there, you learn from others. You take the advantage. You took advantage of different opportunities, and then
Mhm.
slowly move up and expand
Yes.
and take advantage of the opportunities that you face.
That's good. That's good. That's a I do believe on that. So there's a lot of there's a lot of peoples that you can learn from, and I s- like there's just so much people. Like I learned from you already from the auditing, the business, and I learned from Gustavo about the networking perspectives. Mo, yes,
Now, what you mentioned, let me emphasize that, which is important. There's
yes,
so much, so many things you can learn from, right? There's so much. That's the thing. But you have little
yes,
time. You don't have unlimited time. That's
yes,
why, because there's so much to learn. There's so many resources out there, internet, all those things, right? You need to have that plan.
hmm yeah. And I believe having that plan will pretty much kind of filter your vision of it. Because if not, you're just gonna be overwhelmed with so much information that you might not even need.
Yep.
Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit more about AI. So what do you think about what's the I know there's a people that have concerns about AI. What do you think about what is the biggest concern for AI in IT or any automated space? Do you think that's going to be an impact for a lot of people?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question again, quickly?
Yeah, yes, no worries. So I know that AI. We're gonna get into the subject about AI now, because or do you have anything else that you want to explain about your career path or your story?
Efra?
There you
Perfect.
go. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
sorry for that.
No
Never
worries,
seen
no worries.
the problem is even today's technology, right? I mean, you had issues on your end, I had issues on my end with my laptop. That's really something I've been having this question. I've been asking the same thing in the early 2000s. In today's technology, we still have. Back then, it was the blue, the Microsoft, right, the death of blue thing
Oh
screen.
yeah, the blue
Now,
screen.
still, it's not reliable, and that's really unfortunate. But it's the laptop, it's the connection. We still haven't addressed this, reliability issue.
Yes, there's always something, man. It's always gonna have something. Like yours was your computer, mine was the internet connection. It's always even if technology improves and gets better, there's always gonna be that type of problem.
Yeah, I didn't realize my iCloud was kind of syncing, and it was I had like a couple of gigs storage, and I said, okay, that should be fine, but I didn't realize. And that kind of is another important topic in today's environment. We have this, what we call the VUCA, right? The V for volatility, U for uncertainty, and then C for complexity, and then A for ambiguity. The VUCA, thing. And there's so many things happening,
Yes.
and as an individual professional, you cannot just be in charge of everything, and something will happen, and that's really, we just have to accept it at a personal level, at our organization, right? When we try to kind of control everything or plan for everything, things will happen that will be out of your control, regardless of how much you want to be in charge and control things. And that's only normal, and you have to accept that. You have to learn, and what's important is your ability to recover and then go back to operation, just like we did here.
Do you think AI might fix all these little glitches, little bugs, and stuff like this that's happening?
I don't know if AI is going to fix it or not. I think there's definitely the way we're going to be using AI, different use cases. But I think it's
Yes.
more than that, right? The complexity of the systems thinking. Because, as I mentioned, there's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many dependencies, interdependencies when we're using, especially, it might be the hardware that you're using for the specific vendor, the parts, part of the hardware, like the specs. It might be different components. It might be different patch, maybe, right, needed. It might be the different configuration options. Maybe all of us are in the middle of it, right? It's just start downloading a big huge file, which might interrupt the performance. It might be, again, different programs doing different things, syncing up. And in my case, it was the iCloud doing some sync up, and I didn't realize that was going on. So there are all these things that, again, there's so many things you cannot really. And I think one thing you can do is, just like I had my backup. I had 4 laptops here, so all I did was fire up the second laptop and connect it. That's really all you can do. You have to have a business continuity plan, BC, right, or disaster recovery, so that focuses on resiliency. How can you recover,
Yes.
restore quickly, and then be up and running? Because these things will happen.
Yeah.
So with the
It's always good
AI,
to have a
I mean,
backup, man. That's
itself, AI
part
is
of
a
it
huge
too.
conversation, obviously. I mean, there's so much to talk about the AI. Of course, there are technical components. There are risk elements. You have to do it right. There's the governance element. There's all the ethical stuff, explanation of the, how we do, the outcomes, transparency, those things. How it impacts the workforce, right? The skill set. Well, yeah, we say AI is going to get our jobs, right? Well, which is not true. It's the people with the AI skills will get your jobs. But of course, there's definitely the element of AI automating certain things, and where it used to be like, let's say, 10 analysts now need 10 doing be able to. So it's all about the efficiency. It's all about the effectiveness of how you use AI. About an author, like a book, here's one I can definitely recommend from a business perspective. I strongly recommend. There's this author called, and it's one of my big favorite times, Peter Drucker. He's a well-known educator, author, covering different business issues. And any book from him, like the best, whatever, right, would be okay. You should have that in your bookshelf. So he basically came up with this how we look at business. There are 4 things he mentioned, right? One is basically the business purpose. Businesses have a purpose. They create services and products, right? Whatever that purpose, value proposition is. The second is about the workforce. We want to make sure they're efficient, they're productive, right? The third is the timeline. That's why I keep emphasizing your short-term, long-term goals. So there's a timeline element of everything we do, personally or at the business level. And then the fourth is what we call the pastel factors: the political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal. And we see some of those today with the geopolitical situation, on the technology side with the AI, right? That impact, or how organizations do what they do. So those are important, obviously. We had this thing, right? How were we doing transport using horses and just when the cars came out, right? Ford and with their mass assembly. So there was a transition from horse carriages to cars, and that had a lot of impact. We didn't have the infrastructure. People didn't know how to drive. You know, there was this perceptions about the car, and social impact, right? The laws, regulations didn't exist in terms of how you want to kind of regulate all those things. So it was a huge, transition. But we went through that transition. I mean, can you imagine going through horse carriages to the on highway? That's not possible. So
Yeah.
a similar thing is happening right now with AI. So we need to really think about that. How do we learn? How do we adapt? How can we change so that, this is no going there's no going back now with the AI, right? So if it is the right skill set that's relevant for us, for our organization, for what we do at our level, role, responsibility, and for the business moving forward, we have to understand there are risks associated, just like anything else, right? If you're using technology, and the risk that we were using, right, that there was something that could happen wrong, did happen actually right now. My laptop, right? So there was a problem. That was a risk. A risk is basically taking place and then disrupting the value proposition. So there will be things like that with the AI too. So we need to understand what those risks will be, technical, non-technical, and do we have a way to manage those risks? Because we understand overall the value proposition is higher. We get more value from AI. There will definitely be some jobs lost, replaced, right? But there will be new job categories that will be created. So highly recommend that report, World Economic Forum 2030, the job outlook or market outlook, something like that. It's almost 300 pages. It's free to download. It'll give you different perspectives, especially around the implications of AI for at the individual level, at the business level, and it has that global outlook as well. So let's say about the AI. What do you want to talk about AI? What is the specific question?
Yeah, it's unfortunately like the major cities, that's the better connections. But if this still having issues, I'll just connect to the phone.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all. Yeah. So while you're connecting, let me talk about that. So the whole AI thing, obviously, we're going through this transition. We're still in the early phases of this whole AI revolution. And it just came out with ChatGPT, with the OpenAI. That said, we have to remember, AI is nothing new, right? We've been using AI. It's been out there since 1950s, 60s. And we've been using AI very effectively, efficiently for the past 20 years, a good, 20 years or so in different areas. And there are different technologies related to AI, like machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, all those things. What made it so obvious right now is, or surfaced it, is the consumerization through the Gen AI with the ChatGPT in 2022, around November. All of a sudden, kids started using it. Grandparents, grandmothers, they started using it, right? And as a result, it kind of came to our organization, to our boards, and people said, oh, now we have to do something about AI, right? Because of the consumerization aspect. We've gone through the similar phases when we dealt with, like, let's say, the smartphones, right? We had this bring your own device, right, as a result, because everybody was using smartphones. So AI is nowadays kind of the same thing. Obviously, there are business implications. There are business use cases, and we see them. It's very obvious. The leaders, they see the obvious benefit of using AI and AI-related technologies and tools from an efficiency perspective, from a productivity perspective, right? Content creation. I mean, think about the reality now. You can create content, documents and art, video, music, anything, right? And actually, of course, that brings a lot of other things along with it. Nowadays, you can't really 100% believe what you see online, guaranteed. And of course, meeting, right? Everybody was authentic, and they were having discussions, and he was instructed to wire some money, but they were all deep fakes, right? Again, it's all part of the learning, right? We need to learn. We need to make sure we know what we're talking. We know about the basics. So that's really at the foundational level. And then, depending on the organization, depending on the priorities, depending on the strategic roadmap that we have, where does AI fit into that roadmap at our organizations? And also at the same level, at a personal level, because AI is here and has huge implications. What does that mean for you, for us? And you have to learn about AI. You have to learn business. Doesn't matter. You have to learn some high-level technical jargon or the concepts of fundamentals. And there are a lot of programs out there available on YouTube videos. How do you use that for your business? What are the implications? Once you kind of set this baseline fundamentals, I mean, it's like knowing in today's environment for anybody to use Word, Microsoft Word, to use Excel or Google platform, right? It's kind of given now. We all do this. We all know how to type a Word document or Google Smart document platform, Excel spreadsheets. AI is something like that. We need to know how to use it at a very fundamental level. Everybody needs to know that. And then the next level is really based on what you do for your role responsibility level. I mean, let's say if you're in risk or information security, then you need to think about the implications from an information security perspective, from a risk management perspective. There are all these use cases for the different use cases that'll make a difference. Remember the purpose of the business. They have services, products, that value proposition. And now with AI going forward, there's a huge contribution on the AI side. So what does that mean in your organization, in your own industry? You need to know those things. What are the challenges for my organization, for my industry? What are the use cases? What is the specific thing that I have to do? I have to know about what does that mean? It's the AI implication on what I do, the value contribution. What do I need to do to bring myself up to date, up to speed, and utilize all these tools so that I can do more. I can create better. I can create better value proposition, right? I guess the point here is it's always an ongoing learning thing. And there are a lot of resources out there. You just need to have that plan. Remember the roadmap that you have to have? I mean, it should be sooner the better, obviously. You need to address the AI factor sooner than later and just move from there. Of course, we're still in the early phases of AI. In the next couple of years, we're talking right now everything about AI this, AI that, AI risk assessment, right? But I really think in the next 5 years, maybe less than that, we'll just get used to the fact that AI is now part of the tech stack. And we're not going to, right? I mean, just like cloud, maybe. We've gone through that adoption for cloud. It was a huge thing, and we're still going through that. So I think AI is going to be going through the same challenges that cloud stack item, which we need to know more, which we need to learn, the right skill set, the right business use case, deal with the risk aspects properly, make sure and understand the laws, regulations, compliance aspects properly, and eventually focus on the value proposition to our stakeholders, how we use AI for the service and products we do for our own business, and create more value and more customer satisfaction.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. I see what's going on. So that is interesting. And it is true, like you said, you have to get familiar with AI, at least ask the questions, the proper questions. And of course, it's not perfect right now, but it's still, am I right about that? Or is it still like?
Yeah, definitely.
And
Again,
what do you think about
the free courses out there?
And also had a question. What do you think about
Go ahead.
I just seen the certificate, just like 2 certifications about AI. Do you think it's too early for that, or is it still a good beginning phase to start that?
Oh, actually, again, it all depends on your own context, right? So if you have a good understanding about the fundamentals of, again, depending on which certification, ISACA has 2 certifications now, okay? One is about the advanced in AI audit, and the other one is the advanced AI security something. So, and there are others. IIP has that. It's called AIGP or something. So there are certifications out there. That's really given. So it's just a matter of, are you ready to pursue those certifications, and what value will that create for you? I mean, if you don't understand the basics, for example, trying to push yourself through the certification. So what I suggest is make sure to take advantage of all the available content, free resources, videos, right? Bring everything together. Go through this reading, okay? And there are a lot of free resources. And then, okay, once you have established a good foundational understanding of AI-related technologies, all those things, I think then it might be a good time for you to start thinking about pursuing the AI certifications from any organization. I suggest ISACA. I'm actually going through the accreditation component. So definitely, as I mentioned, things are moving quickly, and AI is one of those very important domains. And the sooner you bring yourself up to date with AI and everything around AI, the better that it's going to be for you, for all the opportunities that might. Because again, at this point, businesses, they realize that they have to do something with AI. What that is, again, depends on the organization's maturity. Some organizations, they're out there very aggressive, right? They want to go and do the latest, and they want to try and get the value right away. Some organizations are more, okay, let me wait and see, right? And some are, well, we're just going to wait till things are so stabilized and mature, then we'll get into the laggards. So it all depends in terms of where you are, what you're trying to do, which organization, and those 4 things I mentioned about learning AI. But what is not going to change is AI is not going back. It's a reality. I strongly suggest you start learning about everything AI from the resources online available on the internet. And once you think, okay, I have a good understanding of what it is, what it does, different use cases, different models, you have to have a bit of an understanding around the technical side of things. Think about models, LLMs, different concept, terminology, jargon. Then I think after that fundamental foundation is covered, I think it's one thing to pursue a certification. Of course, there are organizations who might be providing fundamental, foundational level certificates, and that might be okay too, right? It also shows to everybody else that you do have a good understanding of the fundamentals. So you do this as long as you keep learning and you keep moving forward, because AI is here. The sooner you basically learn about it, about its implications, challenges, opportunities, the better you're off.
Okay, so I see that. So it's definitely not going anywhere. It's just moving forward, and just gonna keep expanding more. Do you think that this is gonna affect like cybersecurity perspectives? Let's say an example, like the pen testing, the red team, the blue
It's going to
team,
affect what?
anything like that.
I'm sorry, you broke up there. Can you repeat the question? It's going to affect what? Maybe you're asking about the pen testing and red teaming, those type of things. I think you're logging in threat intelligence perspective. How do we use AI? Let's say part of the operations, right? Of course, with AI now, part of the automation, part of the accuracy, it makes the job a lot easier. It makes it easier for the third parties to get in, right? Try different things. It makes it easy, hopefully, right, on our end, on the defender side, to utilize AI so that we can defend better the resources, the assets that we have on the internal side, on the other side. So looking at that, both sides of the coin, how is AI used by the attackers, third parties, adversaries, versus us trying to defend, right? I think as the defenders, I think we're in a better situation compared to, let's say, 6 years ago with the use of AI, chat, and Gen AI, all those things. In other words, we get more value having all these tools, right? We're able to utilize the technologies, tools, solution, all the stack more. Let's say third parties, hackers, attackers, adversaries, they still were able to use all those things, right? But we had the limitation, have the skill set. But now, today at least, we have some of those things addressed. Yes, the labor's workforce shortage is still an issue, but now at least we have better tools, right, that we can put and utilize on our end. We can automate, right? That we can respond, recover all those things. Of course, on the hacker side, on the other side, attacker side, It's not, I mean, they now have access to a lot of tools. Phishing, for example, a good example. In the past, you could really, looking at the emails, if someone sends you a phishing email, you could, depending where it's coming from, you could see certain, irregularities and inconsistencies, the way the language was used, the grammar aspects, the words, right? It just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, it didn't. But now, because of the AI component, they can draft the perfect content, the perfect email, the phishing email in any language. That's the other problem. So, and now that kind of gives them the upper hand. And on our end, it's really the education, awareness, training of the workforce. And of course, AI makes it also easier, that component, that part of the education, awareness campaigns, those type of things. So it needs to move forward together. But one thing that we cannot do, we cannot afford with these AI related use of AI related technologies, because third parties, the other side, they are using it, whether we like it or not. Right? It makes their operations more effective, more efficient. So now they can get it. On our end, we also have to start using tools and technologies, AI supported, AI implemented, AI embedded, because we don't have the luxury of trying to defend ourselves, trying to recover, right? Do our business using technology, using yesterday's technology, when everybody else, right, the other side is using today's technology. That's exactly what we have to do. And that kind of brings a good point of, well, we don't have internal resources. We don't have the right team to come up with our own AI models and this and that. Hence, it's our reliance on the third parties, vendors, right, that come up with the right tools, technology, utilizing AI. So that's an important element, that outsourcing, right, SaaS-based solutions, our reliance on the third parties. So that's why it's very important that we need to do the due diligence and the due care, the proper risk assessment, and have these partnerships that we can trust. Trust is one of the elements, right? When you're working with a third party, a vendor, do you really trust that vendor, third party, for the tools, technology stack that they bring to help you solve the business problems, to help you defend your organization to the attackers? So I think going forward, kind of start seeing this with the cloud transition in the past, let's say 20 years, right? But now it becomes even more critical because of our dependence, because of the technology stack, the AI. We're not in the business of AI, and it's really not easy. It's not like you just build a server, hardware. It's a combination of different domains. You have to understand programming, coding, data analytics, data science, right? There's security aspect. All these things have to work together. And it's not, you don't even have the right resources to address the basics. So hence our reliance on vendor third parties. So going forward, this whole domain of partners, third parties, vendors will even become more critical to focus, and the overall success of your organization. Obviously, for very large organizations, mature, right? They might do their own implementations, but for majority, it's the reliance on third parties utilizing AI tools, technology stack solutions. And that's why that relationship now going forward, this whole vendor domain, vendor partnership, right, third party, will become much more critical for the overall success of your business if you want to stay in business.
Oh, I was trying to use my phone, but it didn't work with it.
Okay, that's fine.
So
I can
I
hear you
see.
now.
Okay, so I see that the vendors have to work together in the main company, right? So that is something that they're pretty much, do they, in that structure, do they?
So let me understand the question. So how would vendors approach, or not following? What is the exact question again?
Yeah, so I know you mentioned that there's a trust with the vendors in the company. So my question
Yes, you
is,
have to have the trust.
how would the
How do
company
you
know
build that
about the
trust?
vendors?
I see.
Do they
So
have
the
to do
question really is, how do you as an organization, when you have to rely on third parties, you in this today's environment going forward with the AI solutions, how do you build the trust? How do you rely on them? How do you know those are the right vendors? So obviously, companies with a proven record, always good. Smaller organizations may not have the right budgets, that they always will have resource issues. They will always have to maybe outsource using MSPs, MSSPs, those type of vendors, third parties. But I think part of the process is, obviously the assessment, the risk assessment component is really
Okay, so that's good. So you pretty much
so
have to
you
assess.
want to make sure, especially the parties vendor, what the ending of the use case of the tool, what the business problem that they're solving, what the pain, right, what the need they're addressing, and make sure, do they have a fourth party? Do they outsource? I mean, you think you might be working here with a third party here in the US, but what if they're also outsourcing their services to another, a fourth party, another supply chain, right, outside the country? Do you have visibility to that whole thing? It might be the third, fourth, fifth, that's a whole chain. So, and all this can also be part of your risk assessment, obviously, but more importantly, it should be part of your the initiation, the legal contract, the content. So, as you're working, as you're initiating this partnership with a vendor, and if you think they're the right vendor, you want to make sure everything is documented. Because if things happen, and we know things will happen now nowadays in terms of a breach incident, it's not a matter of if, but when, is what we used to say. That was the old thing. Now we say it's not a matter of when, but how many times do you go through a breach incident? Huh? How many times? So in this environment, really, are you? I mean, are you able to document everything? Put it on writing, right? Because if it's not written down, that's not gonna. You're not gonna have an option to pursue. So you have to make sure you have the right clauses, the right content, indemnification, anything, right? Is documented. Of course, you're not the expert, as let's say someone in charge of cyber security, governance, whatever. It's the legal team. It's your office of the general counsel, right? Procurement. They need to look into the contracts. They need to look into the language. They need to make sure, right? If when we take this to court tomorrow, something happened, right? And it's because of their negligence, whatever. Do we have the right content, the contract that's going to work for us? So that's the number one thing that you can do. And of course, anyone. So part of the trust aspect, if you're kind of trying to get into a relationship for this, let's say a new vendor, if they're doing the right things in the right way, trying to put this into a writing, into the proper documentation contract should not be a problem for the services that they're providing, solving your pain points, whatever the service product that you want to get them, use them for. If they're really doing it the right way, and if their tools really does work, if they have the right measures, controls implemented in their own environment, they should not hesitate to work with you to come up with that legal contract the way, right, works for both sides. That's a good indication of the trust. But if you have a vendor just keep crossing, oh, we cannot do that, we cannot, right, that's a good indication that maybe down the road. So you want to make sure it works for you. Of course, it needs to work for them. You as the organization is responsible, accountable if something happens, and you will be facing suffering all the consequences. Find that vendor who's willing to work with you on all the relevant.
I
Of
see. I
course, the
see.
other way to look at this, now that talking about it, it needs to make sure you're solving the right problem. They need to give you the right flexibility, whether it's a POV, POC, right? Give you a 3 month, 6 month, whatever, so that you can try it in your own environment without any restriction. If they're also flexible, that also shows in their ability, in their right trusting their solution that it's gonna do the job right properly. So all these things, it's not just one thing. There are multiple things that tell you open are they. For example, part of the contract. If you want to audit them, right, make sure they say, oh, we're certified, we have all these controls measures, but how are you going to know, right? So if you can you put that clause in your contract, anytime you want to be able to audit them, go their systems and go through certain checklists. Of course, they will be able to provide certain certification certifications that also gives you some level of confidence, but still you should be able to audit them, how their operations work, their controls measures, and it's just another trust factor. Okay. Yeah. So with I'm sorry, what is the question again with audit and risk?
So in that process, there's a lot of auditing just to confirm the risk.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the third party, it's all about. I mean, this is one thing I think out of this webinar. One thing everybody should take out, or whoever listens and watches, right? At the end of the day, and this is really a very common theme under the ISACA. Businesses exist for a reason, right? We are there to create value. We have to deliver the benefits to our audiences. But that's our number one primary focus objective. Along with that, at the highest level, there are risks associated as we move forward in any business, because we do these things and we're in business, right? Risk is inherent. We have to mitigate those risks. We have to manage those risks. So, but managing the risk doesn't mean you're going to address it 100%, right, up and down. It's the optimization aspect. It's not the minimization. Because if you try to minimize, that means you can, but then you're not going to be able to, find the right balance for the value creation for all those innovation products, digitalization products, right? Things that create value. So that's why we use the word optimization, not minimization. So it's the optimization of the associated risks. So remember, number one primary goal is how we create value, deliver benefits, realization, all those things. Secondary is the optimization of the associated risks. You have to manage those risks. You have to optimize them. The third bucket is, as you're going through this, right, you do require resources. So, and you have limited resources. That's why we prioritize. And that's why it's the optimization of the use of the limit, so that you spend the money on which projects, on which efforts. You find that you go through that prioritization, and hence you optimize. And the last bucket is really, as we do all these things, create value, deal with the risk, use of resources, you have to do this in a very legal, right, based on laws, regulations. So the compliance aspect, you want to make sure you're doing this legally, properly. You're not doing anything illegal. So those four things at the high level are important. Number one focus being, how do we create value for our stakeholders through the service and products, and everything else is basically secondary. Remember, we're not in the business of risk management. We're not in the business of being compliant with laws, regulations, right? Our business is really creating value, and all the other three comes supports. We have to do this collectively, but our focus is to create value for our audience.
Yeah, and I believe you created a lot of value too from.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things in terms of conferences, events, whether I just participate or on an ongoing basis, part of the learning, right? Remember, learning never stops; it's ongoing, and of course, you also have. I mean, at my where I am right now, I have stuff with my background. I'm able to give back to the community, so I participate for learning purposes. I participate for giving back. I present, I moderate, and there's some coming up obviously later this year. But events, conferences, they're all up. And that's another, I mean, I think it was Richard, right, asking how do I. So that's another venue for you, especially if they're free, if they're online, right, you can join. For example, Cloud Security Alliance and groups like that, SANS, for example, right? They also have these day-long conferences, and they're all free. Actually, there was one yesterday, ransomware, I think. SANS was doing that, okay? It was a day-long conference. So, but if you're not plugged into the right, newsletters, the people, the group that you're following, whatever, you're not going to find out about these things. That's one of the things. You have to be plugged in so that you know what's happening around it, so that you can take advantage of these events, conferences, and learning opportunities. But if you don't take an action, if you're not part of the community, if you don't follow the right people, how are you going to find out if there's something happening out there that might help you, right? Which might be free, right? Mostly. So that's really important to stay connected. Events, conferences is one of the major paths that you learn that you can give back if you have that capacity, if you have that level of experience. Well, this year, to be honest, I really stopped counting, but I think I participated presenting, moderating as a panelist. A good, we're in March, I've done at least 2 or 3 a month. So anyway, you look at it locally, globally, a good, I don't know, 20, 25 maybe that I participated actively, including online webinars, maybe more, around 30 maybe. You're right. I mean, again, part of the education, whether I'll put on 3 buckets. One is these events contests where I participate, I learn, I come back as an active participant, keynote speaker. I actually have a couple of coming ISACA annual GRC conference taking in New York. I will be presenting there August 18, 19, 20. There is one I'll be probably presenting at the PMI Silicon Valley, which I have finalized that. And there are others, obviously, which I keep forgetting. So that's one bucket. Another bucket in terms of all these efforts, right? Educational learning training is under the ISACA umbrella. I'm an accredited trainer, as I mentioned, for most of the ISACA certifications. And as the ISACA Sacramento chapter, mostly, and of course, working with partnering other chapters, we do provide trainings. You have to be an accredited trainer. You have to have all the certifications, but you also have to be accredited so that you can teach, and an accredited trainer. And I am, and all those, most of the members, right? So that they can learn, just like Richard was asking, how do you, right, transition? How do you get in? Certifications, they're a reality today. And you have to kind of, at the lowest level, whatever your background, remember what's the right plan, and pursue, have 1 or 2 certifications. Certifications are a reality. So make sure you have it on your resume. So I do that often in person or online trainings for different groups, different audiences. And we also partner with different institutions like ISACA Silicon Valley. We have one coming up actually that I will be instructing, teaching about this digital trust ecosystem framework, DTEF, which I also reviewed, and I was part of one of the reviewers. So, and that's a bigger umbrella. So ISACA has all these, different certificates about audit, risk, governance, information security, AI, right? But think about it. There's a bigger team, which is the trust that I've been mentioning, right? The digital trust, especially in today's environment, that is very important, the digital trust. So ISACA has that as well. So we'll have one coming up, I think, in June 24th through 27th or 28th for 4 days. Okay, so we're going to provide that online. So please follow me. So we're partnering with ISACA Sacramento and ISACA Silicon Valley, a part of teaching about the digital trust. So please follow up, and free, online, highly recommended. So that was the second bucket. Of course, education awareness training, we want to do something more formal. And the third bucket that I do is really around formal education at the graduate level. I do teach at St. Mary's College, part of their MBA, MSBA, MBA program, professional MBA programs throughout the year, once or twice a year, different courses like data analytics, operations, research, supply chain management. I actually just finished the operations supply chain management program, which is very relevant. I mean, think about all the. So that's one thing. Another more important is around cybersecurity is the program that I launched at the Dominican University of California, based in San Rafael. It's the Master of Science in Cybersecurity program, a graduate program. It's an online program that you get to finish in less than a year, altogether 12 courses. It's a business-focused program. Remember, everybody's situation is different. Part of the program, we also provide certifications, these ISACA, ISE score certifications. We provide them free of charge. we do have 6 or so workshops for the certifications. We work with a vendor, but that's just a side benefit, right? It's part of the program, no charge, no, right? It's just a benefit. But the main program, the benefit are chunks from the whole industry where they're teaching. So if they're teaching audit, if they're doing audit, right? They're teaching audit. So full time, their job is about audit. They teach about the audit class, about cyber and the business implications of audit. We also have a great list of cybersecurity industry focused advisory. If you might be 20 years old, and along with the other things I mentioned, just industry certifications and not really vendor certifications. My perspective is, if you're going for the vendor certifications, you're really cornering yourself to stay in that staff analyst technical level. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, it all depends on what your preferences are. Do you want to work as a technical subject matter expert and maybe focus on one industry, maybe focus on one vendor domain, right? Maybe everything around Amazon, maybe everything around Google, the ecosystem, right? Everything around IBM, Palo Alto, Proofpoints. But that's your preference. Or do you want to be, right, whatever the specific focus you might have, as audit focus, you might be focused on data, marketing, doesn't matter. But you need to have that maybe business, IT, cyber focus. And to move up to management. So there's no right or wrong answer. And again, I'm more than happy to one-on-one so that I can maybe, based on their objectives and goals, what they're trying to accomplish, provide them some guidance as to what might be better for them in the short term, long term, all those things. You need to remember, right? So the 4 things are important. Your health. So where you are in a professional journey. Are you a 20-year-old just entering the career? Are you maybe 25, 30? Maybe you got some, right? Maybe 40, like mid-level management. Maybe towards the end, thinking of retirement. That's another one. How about your relationships, your access to your resources, time, financial? So all these things are important factors. It's all about learning. It's all about the ongoing learning, right? That's important. So never stop that unless you retire. And even then, you want to keep the mental thing running, right? You need to keep running, keep learning so that you keep your brain active. Different focus areas. You can go technical, you can go non-technical, you can stay at the subject matter expert level, right? You can focus on one industry, one vendor, specifically AWS, Amazon, IBM, whatever, Google, their ecosystem. So you can stay in the technical domain maybe, or you don't have that underlying technical background, engineer, whatever, but you have that business mindset. You have a good understanding of technology. Maybe you have that long-term, well, I have a good understanding. I really want to be in that management leadership role. And again, moving forward, remember, for businesses, every business today, the underlying foundation is IT and cyber. So we need to make sure you have a good understanding of IT, cyber, privacy, governance, risk, all those things, and then keep moving on that. And the last thing is really make sure you are part of the right circle, whether it's ISACA, whether it's connecting on LinkedIn with the right individuals, right? How you follow up, how you learn about different opportunities. So you have to be part of the right circle. You have to follow the right people. You have to have the right conversations so that when you're having those right conversations, right, and you're part of that, you hear about the different opportunities that might pop up. And if you're doing the things, consistently, part of your roadmap, part of the plan, remember, you'll be better situated to take advantage of those opportunities that might pop up. So that's all I have. This was great. I really appreciate the opportunity, Efren.
Okay, thank you.
So
Thank
unfortunately,
you. No,
the technological disruptions always happens, but yeah, definitely. Okay.
Now we'll have to do a part 2, man, so we can get more into it.
No, definitely. I think we should do part 2, but let's make sure we're better prepared in terms of we have the business continuous disaster recovery in plans. Like we have a hot site, right? we should have a hot site and switch right away. So we should do that better. So yeah, I'm more than happy to join for a part 2 on a specific topic, maybe on something else. Definitely, it might be I don't know, we might be able to go through the ISACA certifications well, I think that might be a good idea, actually. So people think about it, right? We can kind of go through, list all the ISACA certifications and go one at a time, what each certification does, what the requirements are. So that might be a good topic for at least a good hour or two, that we can go through what they need to do, what they need to learn, who the certifications are good for, so we can go into the detail of the ISACA certifications and others as well.
Yes, I think that'd be a great topic for next time for the ISACA certifications. Clarify a few things and get more details into them. Because I know there's a lot of
because there's so many, there's so many unknowns. People wonder, right? How do I get a certification? What do I need to do? And there are a lot of steps, right? From, let's say, becoming a member, chapter member, advantages, which we discussed some of them, and then going through the individual courses, certifications, and what they do, who's that for, what is the purpose, right? What experience do you need to have? So there are a lot of all these things we can discuss, covering an ISACA at a high level. There are, I think, 8 or so high level, 8, maybe 9 certifications. Yeah.
I may ask you about this later.
Oh yeah, please do join or find out. We do have information sessions, info sessions, once a month, where we talk, like, briefly, less than 30 minutes about the program. This is the MS in Cybersecurity at Dominican University of California. But at the same time, we bring industry guest speakers, so that they basically talk about, just like this, right? We talk about different business, cyber, IT issues, topics, challenges, risks, and we hear from these distinguished guest speakers. So I highly recommend following me or Chell on online about the Dominican University. And I think our next one is in June. We just had one actually 2 days ago, Thursday, I think, 3rd, if I remember. That's a Monday, I think. Yeah, please do join. But more importantly, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm sure you have other questions which we were not able to answer. I mean, we can talk about these all day long. So connect with me on LinkedIn. More than happy to guide you one-on-one, provide some mentoring maybe. I'm sure there's some value I can create for you. So please connect on LinkedIn and see how I can help you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And I'll be sharing this video. And like I mentioned, we'll start the process and everything. So
Okay,
also,
Efren, are you there?
So